If you've listened to our podcast before, we've cut out quite a bit of the coughs. We're not going to cut out coughs, guys. Everybody's coughing. COVID, it's in the air.
COVID, it's in the air.
I'm sorry. It's like not a joke. It's not a joke.
Cinetherapy Podcast with Sam and Mitch. Or Dad.
Welcome to the Cinetherapy Podcast. I'm Mitch Williams, joined by Sam McGhee. We make up Inland Film Co. Today we're going to talk about our new office, the story of leaving it. We're going to talk about our new camera, projects we've worked on, and working in the COVID environment.
Oh, that's... I did check. This is 6 feet apart.
It's a nice water there.
I'm drinking water. I'm chugging water. This is my second water.
Ain't no laws with that water. We have been absent, like I guess some could say by design. Others might say, yeah, I don't know. We've just been absent. And the truth is we've needed to regroup, figure out how we're going to do these more efficiently and effectively. And we have 3 podcasts in the hopper that we recorded almost a year ago, right before my daughter was born, I believe. I think we filmed and recorded all of those.
I know one of them was December.
Yeah, maybe one. So regardless, it's been a minute. And if you're listening to this and you're just waking up from a coma, like so many others, that's a dark joke. But if you've been asleep or maybe out in the woods with no cell service or something like that, I think Jared Leto had this happen to him. Read about it. He was in the desert. And you just are listening to this for the first time and you haven't pulled up any sort of news source or anything, we're in the midst of a global pandemic. And it's crazy. Stuff has hit the fan, and we could get really deep and really dark with this episode. If you did just hear this for the first time, that we're in the global pandemic, I'm guessing you're probably going to want to press pause right now and go check other news sources to verify that this is real. It is real. It is true. And it's actually the most devastating and saddest thing to witness in the time that I've been alive. Today, I think over 250,000-ish, more or less, people have died due to COVID-19. That's another name for it. COVID-19. Anyways, in the United States. It's sad. We're here. We don't need to talk about this dark stuff. Let's move on.
In my mind, I was like...
Imagining
what we're about to jump into, and you dove straight down. And I went with you, but it's not what I pictured.
I want you to put yourself in the shoes, though, of that person that may just be hearing about this for the first time.
I just don't think that person exists.
Oh, they do. There's 7 billion people on the planet. Somebody's asleep. Somebody's been asleep that entire time.
Well,
they're definitely going to listen to the Cinetherapy podcast when they wake up. That's
7 billion people listen to this podcast. So
yeah, well, it's available.
It's true.
All of them. Actually, that's not true. There's islands or places in the Amazon. I mean, we could get. What am I rambling about?
Dude, I don't know.
So
but I'll go there.
I'll tell you this.
This is why we haven't had a podcast recording, is because we were afraid that we were going to start rambling.
Yeah.
For months and months, we're just going to ramble.
It's important stuff. I think we don't need to. Everybody knows where we've been.
That's true. Everybody knows where we've been. I want to dive into a few major things within these four walls. And then we'll all of the pandemic and whatever there was like some sort of an election in the United States. All of this stuff feeds into or affects what we want to talk about. We started a podcast called Cinetherapy. It's therapy. It's cinema therapy. We talk about film and filmmaking and small shop filmmaking, documentaries, and we made a couple of really big moves, and then the whole world shut down, and we just haven't engaged in our cinema therapy. And so I want to talk about the big moves that have happened inside our company of the two of us, and as it relates to all of the dark stuff we dove into really fast.
Yeah, so you did an awesome job just, narrowing that down. Before we get moving on any further, I'm Mitch Williams, and I do directorial type work here at Inland Film Co. And I also do a bunch of, all that admin stuff that everybody loves. And then we got across the table my, I want to say fellow comrade, as my friend Michael Moynihan says. He's not my friend. I wish he was. But my other half in my second marriage, I have two marriages, one with my wife and one with my brother-in-law, quite literally, who works with me, alongside me as a partner, Sam McGhee. Sam, what do you do here? Or do you want me to say?
I do. You said you do directorial type things. I do director of photography oral type things. I operate the cameras and make sure that the files are backed up. And some days I don't do a very good job of the second half of that.
You jump in a swimming pool with the cards in your pocket.
Occasionally I will jump in the swimming pool with cards in my pocket.
Yeah. Yeah. Time will tell whether or not we get to that story.
We'll save that for another podcast. I guarantee that'll come up later.
Yeah. Yeah. So, as Sam alluded to, and if anybody's watching this on YouTube, our close to billions of views that we have, we are in a new office since we last recorded. We were on a really sweet deal, on a solid rent deal at our old space for 3 years. It was all untreated concrete, no drywall. It was plastic over pink insulation, and we were breathing in insulation and just concrete dust for those 3 years. And
every day.
Yes, every day.
Completely unknowingly.
Yeah, we knew, but we didn't want to think about it. I had this dry cough. If you've listened to our podcast before, we've cut out quite a bit of the coughs. We're not going to cut out coughs, guys. Everybody's coughing. COVID, it's in the air.
COVID, it's in the air.
I'm sorry. It's like not a joke. It's not a joke. I can't laugh. It's not. You've lost someone due to this terrible disease. So, but it was a perfect, hit it out of the park.
You really did.
And so we have since moved. Our rent was on month to month. Somebody came in with a sweet deal. We had to either match it or leave. We left. We were fortunate enough to secure a pretty sweet space here, and it actually has walls, drywall, I should say, and it has carpet. We're not breathing in dust. Within a month after moving out of our other space, we both noticed that we were breathing better, not coughing as much. It's awesome. And another thing that is new since we last spoke happens to be sitting on this table. And if you're watching on YouTube, like the other almost billions of people, you will see what I'm talking about. It's right there. I'm pointing at it.
Oh, yeah.
And Sam might want to dive into what it is and how it works.
I was going through this. I was going through our archive of like a couple episodes of podcasts, and our episode with Cameron Hotchkiss, who, by the way, I noticed when we recorded with Cameron, we weren't really like friends. We were acquaintances, and it's so weird because we talk to him every day now. But the intro to that podcast episode with Hotchkiss is you saying, if I have an Alexa Mini in my cart, does that make me any closer to actually getting one? And we all agreed that answer was yes. And it turns out you really did have one in your cart. It was the LF, the large format. And you clicked buy on accident one day, and this showed up. No, we, I've been joking a lot lately that this social experiment that is a couple of brothers-in-law trying to get to know each other better and become friends has turned into a lifelong career path of making movies. And we want to get into being a kind of a writer, director, DP duo that produces our own original content. And part of what drives our interest in film and cinema is watching films and movies that we find fascinating, and over and over again, we've just seen that like anything that we visually are obsessed with happens to be either film or an ARRI sensor. And so one of the things that we've talked about a lot is, when are we going to be able to incorporate ARRI into our workflow? A lot of what we do right now is documentary and commercial, and we want to be able to push ourselves outside that box. And we had an opportunity to push ourselves in a very uncomfortable way, which was basically taking out a mortgage on a massive, awesome camera that fascinates us. So we made the jump. We jumped in on an ARRI Alexa Mini LF. If you're on YouTube, you can see it sitting on the table. It is kind of like that. It's just sort of like a thing we threw out there to like entice.
We needed decorations for the...
Honestly, it's just a decoration in the office. No.
Yeah. No, just for the podcast.
Yeah.
What were you going to put on there?
Well, I had like a whole slew of decorations, and then I just pushed them all over and figured one thing on the table was fine.
We have a plant, a house plant.
We do. And
that's new.
It's
for us.
really, having a plant in the office has really helped our morale, I think.
And our breathing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cleans the air.
I just need to water it more. So we did. We jumped. We dove into two major things that we joked about on the podcast before, and then never talked about them. Which is something we've only come to realize recently. We moved into a new office, and we bought ourselves an Alexa Mini LF, and we've been using it.
Yes.
And the other topic of conversation we could bring up now is we haven't been posting daily reels, and people noticed. Like, people thought maybe we went out of business, but no, we've been hunkered down, making content for our clients, paying the bills, actually figuring out how to use this giant camera.
Which really goes to show what we've pitched clients, which is, that consistency and quality, like consistent quality content on your page really is the breath or heartbeat of your organization, to let the outside world know that you're alive and you exist and you're still, it's, I don't want to like overstate and say like, oh, you know, you need to be, because like if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, I don't know what the right reasons are, but
Yeah.
reality is people noticed when we were, and now they're noticing that we aren't. So we're going to figure out how to get back on that train. We're so close to 500 daily reels, so close. So if someone wants to voluntarily edit some daily reels with over 80 terabytes of hard drive, of archival footage on hard drives that we have, call us up. You know, we're here, obviously. Yeah, we'd do it. We would, if you're not crazy.
If you're not crazy, if you are crazy.
I don't, yeah.
So that's what we want to talk about today is moving into a new space, and it's an office. You know, I reference it as our Inland Film Coast studio on the gram, and I've actually had a couple of people comment just in a direct message, that doesn't look like a studio, that looks like an office. Well, it is.
Yeah.
But we treat it like a studio. Like, got big windows. It actually feels more like a studio than our last place. We've got clean floors. We don't have concrete all over our, like dust all over the backdrop. And then we bought a new camera that we're using, and we want to talk about it today. We bought a new camera, and then the world just...
Yeah, we put our deposit down in September of 2019. And it was like February 28th, or it was, I think, yeah, the last day in February. And all of a sudden we get an email. Your Alexa Mini is ready to ship. It's in our warehouse. And COVID's just hit the shores of Washington State, the state we live in. And the same day, at the same time, you saw an email come through. And I texted you, or I can't remember how it happened, but you got an email from our landlord saying that we were getting kicked out.
Yeah. We both got an email about the new camera's ready to ship, and we're getting kicked out of our office. Same time, you texted me and said something like, "Holy crap." And I didn't know whether you were saying we're getting a camera or we're getting kicked out. And then we both had to reveal our cards to the other person. Oh, I didn't notice that the camera was ready to ship. Oh, I didn't notice that they emailed us that we're getting kicked out.
Yeah.
So here we are, and we are going to attempt to bring therapy back into our lives here. We have, you just revealed to me that you want this episode to go out before the 3 archival episodes, which I'm down with. We have, because you said we have 3 in the docket.
Yeah, I don't care when they go out.
Regardless,
we can just tell
we
people
filmed
now.
3 different episodes that may or may not be relevant today. And the reason that I say may not be is because one of those episodes is with someone who, at the time, I'm just going to say it, Julian Jari. At the time, he was an internet acquaintance, and he's become an internet friend. And we talked about cameras at the time that were ideas in our mind, but now we own the cameras that we literally talked about in that episode. So if this episode is out and you're hearing me talk about this and you haven't seen the Jari episode, a lot of the tech stuff in there was us buying the camera.
Jari was hinting at the fact that he was going to buy. Do I say what?
He was going to get a red Gemini.
Yes, he was going to get a red Gemini. Like, oh, spoiler
alert.
Go to his Instagram. You can see it's everywhere. So, and then we were sharing, while keeping our cards close, that we were very big fans of the Alexa sensor.
Yeah.
But we did not want to reveal yet that we had purchased that until it actually came.
Yeah. Because it's something that we had we talked about for a long time. we got on Abel Cine's list. We put a down payment on it, but we just didn't want to talk about it because we didn't want it to seem like we were BSing.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted it to be here and then talk about it. And so I have a question for you. How have we, so how many months has it been since our last episode in like December? How have we been using this camera all summer long? Because we went into like, Washington State has been pretty extreme with their shutdowns, and we've been super conscious of everything that's going on. How have we actually used this camera in the last year?
Yeah, it's a great question. We have, at the beginning of the shutdown, the first lockdown in Washington, the day that things locked down here, I was on the phone I was not on the phone, I was on the couch talking with my wife, and she brought up an old prospect of a client, and I was telling her, oh, that guy, he's now at this big RV dealership. They're the largest certified pre-owned and used RV dealer in the country, blah, blah, blah. But I should reach out. No joke, 5 minutes after that, he wrote me an email, said, hey, we had an idea for the summer. We want to do it now. And we had just got our camera. So it was beautiful timing. We have our Ronin 2. We got the Nucleus grips and Nucleus follow focus system.
All of our wireless video gear.
Yes, we have everything to make the dopest RV ad that you could watch. And we did it. We went out and filmed something super rad I'm super proud of. And it's a Johnson RV spot called The Original Social Distancing. And yeah, big fan of what we did.
My hope is that when this podcast episode is out, we have some of that floating around on our social media.
Yeah, for like dailies or something.
Yeah, because that's a project that we never, because we weren't doing dailies. We were trying to focus more on being home. You had a kid, pandemic. We were trying to be home. And so we were only doing client work and not doing any marketing work.
Which is kind of still stayed pretty consistent.
True. And so that Johnson RV project, our first project with the camera, is so pretty.
Mm-hmm.
There was one shot of the family that we used in as the model family in this RV. Their son is like standing at the shore of the lake, and he turns and looks off camera. I don't know if I prompted him with this or if he just did it on his own, but it is now like our flagship poster for Inland Film Co. Alexa Mini LF, large format sensor, super contemplative look out of this kid with a sunset in the background on a lake. We need to share this footage.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was stoked with the end product. The client was, and little side story, a competitor rhymes with Schmamping World. Whoever their agency is, literally ripped our ad off.
Full on ripped off.
They went and found stock footage that matched our entire story and put together an ad with
that
the
felt
same
pretty
messaging
good to see.
right after ours release. But that felt good. Imitation, greatest form of flattery, or whatever.
Are you going to stay on that topic, or are we going to move on to another one?
I was going to move on to other projects.
One more thing on that one is we went full on with, yes, we were in the middle of a pandemic, and we went full on with a crew.
Yeah.
And that was super exciting. We had like, it's really on that kind of a project. It's really easy to remain socially distant because you've got camera operator, you've got a wireless operator for follow focus over here. And then you got the family. Like nobody needs to be close for that kind of stuff. But the driving shots, I'm so excited because we've done a lot of driving shots in the past. We bought a Ronin 2 knowing that we would eventually put bigger cameras on it. We were doing some car ads. We weren't doing them anymore. But to do an RV commercial, you and I set out. You found this spot on Coeur d'Alene Lake that you wanted to drive this RV. It's a Sprinter, a Mercedes Sprinter conversion, big old RV, super dope. We went out at sunset and we had myself with the Ronin climbing harness strapped into the back of my truck and on the tailgate. And then we have you driving the truck because I trust you to drive the truck. And we have wireless. We have the first AC pulling focus wireless in the front seat of the truck. We have and controlling the Ronin. We have the driver. We actually had Cameron Hotchkiss drive the van, and we have a spotter car out front, making sure that we know because we are going to be driving all over the road, and so we've got a spotter car up ahead telling us when we can drive on the opposite side of the road. And that was probably by far one of the coolest moments so far in our time as a film company, is to have, a crew of people that we really like to do stuff with. We get out of it. We do one pass on this road and we all get out and we're like, oh my gosh, we got these cool shots. Cause we've done stuff with an FS5 or an FS7, getting some cool driving shots, but our first time taking the Alexa Mini F LF out and getting driving shots of this rig at sunset, it just worked out so well.
Someday we're going to have to share the story about how we got that location too. Landed the...
Oh my gosh, because there was
like marina.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
area.
That is definitely a story we'll go into, because that's another... we got lucky.
It was awesome.
Got lucky with the location to sit and film the family. What else have we done with this camera?
What happens, you go banger hunting and...
You go banger hunting.
And, as our friend Cam Hotchkiss puts it.
What else have we done with this camera?
We have put... we've had a heavy load of product videos. For a telecommunications and data center, like fiber and power company.
Lots of white background stuff.
Lots of white background
stuff.
Lots
of super smooth slider shots.
Yeah.
Hand plugging fiber cables in and doing it over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't right. That didn't feel right.
Mm-hmm. Hand model stuff. They look great right now. My hands look great right now.
You've had to keep yourself pretty manicured because, in a global pandemic, who's going to be the hand model?
Well, and who washes their hands a lot to begin with? Me. So
wash your hands, lather on the lotion.
Dude, I've been lotioning so much lately because my hands were just... Anyways, so we've done a lot of that, which has been rad, and really been grateful for that work. It's fun. We'll show you.
Yeah.
The product videos look pretty. They're.
I mean, I think it's a testament to it looks pretty.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an industry that doesn't normally have pretty product videos.
Mm-hmm.
It's an industry that usually the main person who's going to see the photos and buy a product is an engineer who just needs to know that it's the size of a panel they want. They're super technical. But it's also a testament to doing work for companies that needed to keep going during a pandemic.
And
we still had work.
Yeah, and their story, similar to many, I imagine, is just like salespeople can't travel, so let's move that budget to marketing, which we're fortunate enough to be in that marketing space. People sell through video right now. So, and I say that with the knowledge, like knowing that many of our peers have not had the work, and during this time, because maybe their clients were not in the type of environment that would be like social distanced or whatever. And that's why I say we're fortunate and grateful to have them as a client.
That's one of the major reasons why we kind of chose to not post dailies and not post or make Cinetherapy episodes, is because it was really hard to watch friends.
Yeah.
Struggle.
Yeah. It is sucked. All of this has sucked. Yeah. Moving on. This is Cinetherapy. We could get really deep into that feeling. I'm just not feeling it right now. We'll get there.
We will. I mean, we might even get there we'll have friends on. Like,
yeah.
Cinetherapy for us is wanting to have friends on and talk about this stuff. So we'll get there.
Yeah. So another like big set of projects, films that are out of production now into post, but that we did film on the Alexa Mini LF. We had one that we're like, I don't even know if we're supposed to talk about. We had some projects, one that took you to Missoula, Montana. That wasn't on the Airy, but that was pretty rad.
We bought an Airy and then immediately got hired for like 3 different jobs because we have an FS7.
Yes. Yeah. So we worked on All in Washington. That was rad. Something we did post about and share about.
Yeah.
COVID concert for COVID-19.
Yeah.
State of Washington, this big nonprofit, government, private sector, all got together and they made a 90-minute like concert special. So all like, if you're not from Washington and you don't know this, then I'm betting some of your favorite artists are from Washington State. We're just full of musicians. We're this dark, cold, rainy PNW place where people get sad and write awesome music and become alcoholics.
I am taking that in because that's new. That's a new way of thinking about where we live. And it's true.
It's like, I think it's Jerry Seinfeld said his favorite places to perform in the States is like, it's like the cold belt. Because people are just funnier, like, because they live a harder life. Like,
I've never heard him say that.
Yeah.
It makes total sense.
People have more of a sense of humor. All these people, living in this hot, warm weather. I'm jealous. I'm the most fair weathered person to stay in Spokane. Yeah. Anyways, that being said, All in Washington, it was, Macklemore, Dave Matthews, Pearl Jam. I've stopped there, but regardless,
yeah,
it was a lot of music.
Yeah,
It was cool.
We did a couple of interview pieces that went into that.
Yeah,
emotional stories that added in.
A COVID survivor that was put on a ventilator for 2 weeks, I think. And for every day you're put on a ventilator, it takes that many weeks to rehab for your lungs to fully recover and for your body to be back to normal.
It's unreal.
And the survival rate on a ventilator for COVID at least, is like under 3%. So this guy, like over 97% of people that are put on vents die. It's awful. It's terrible. So we interviewed a guy that was put on a ventilator, and he's one of the very few that lived. Then we also did a piece with the Washington State Potato Commission. That for those of you out here who want some more statistics, because we are a statistics podcast, there are over 1 billion potatoes in cold storage in Washington State right now. I need to check back on this because, like, with restaurants having been shut down, like, potatoes were not selling because they're not making French fries, they're not making potato chips, they're not making potato buns. Potatoes are in, everything. And so a lot of farmers at the time of recording were already burying their crop for this year because all of the cold storage was taking up from last year's crop. Taking up space from last year's crop. So it's pretty devastating. And Idaho is the potato state, and they do not produce nearly as many potatoes as we do. So we're just like, yeah, you can have the potato.
We're a pretty big deal.
Yeah, so we've been doing work for Knife River Pre-Stress, and because of Knife River Pre-Stress, they, one of their partners / clients, really liked what we were doing, and all of it was being filmed and produced on the Alexa Mini LF. They reached out asking us to make some content for them, make some films for them. So we pitched them on 4 total days of production, 1 day in Harrisburg, Oregon, and 3 in Siskiyou County, Northern California.
At the base of Mount Shasta.
Yeah, it's freaking rad. So that project is with the U.S. Endowment for Forestry and Communities, the largest nonprofit for forestry in the country. That project was awesome. So we went and filmed the production of the bridge,
The concrete
bridge, using a fiber, nanocellulose fiber or material that mixes with the concrete, and it's 20%
lighter.
less concrete. Yep, 20% lighter and 20% stronger. So reduces
and then there's
greenhouse
a
gas.
significant greenhouse gas reduction.
Yeah,
because concrete is one of the most intense greenhouse gas
yeah.
emitting
processes to make, right?
Yeah, it's a construction material that just is unreal harsh on our environment to make.
Yeah. So, so they were working with a county on putting this bridge in, and so we went and filmed a whole story on the nearby towns, towns like Wairika, Fort George, Mount Shasta. And then we filmed the install of the bridge and the transport in the truck, which was pretty rad. And then we went out and filmed environmental stuff. So,
and you mentioned this, but we also filmed the construction or the actual manufacturing of the bridge made out of concrete. And we worked with, is it OSU or U of O?
It was OSU.
OSU.
I thought it was
outside of Eugene. They're in students from research students came down. So like research students from a local university are working with the concrete manufacturer to make this new technology inside concrete that makes it better for our environment and stronger and lighter. And then they go and install that bridge in a little local forest community that relies on this Forest Service road and this little bridge. And then we met community members. What was the lady's name that like 10 years ago was on the board that wanted nanocellulose technology inside the bridges in their town? And 10 years ago, when she fought for this, they never happened. And today she drove out to see this being installed. So like the story, this little mini doc that we're going to make, we filmed everything. This little mini doc we're going to make is just showing like community impact on this massive scale.
Mm-hmm. My eyes were drifting because I'm trying to remember her name.
Yeah.
I know her last name. It's something Bennett. Anyways, doesn't matter.
So that's one project that we are currently working on. We filmed everything. We got to go do the voiceover and edit it. But that was probably our biggest trip so far with this camera system. Took the Alexa Mini, our full lens package, the Ronin 2, and the Easy Rig with a Vario Flow Cine on top. And we also couldn't line up a drone pilot that we wanted to work with. So we rocked for the first time, overnighted a Mavic 2 Pro, and we're going to try out the Moment anamorphic lens. We've seen some really cool things with the anamorphic lens on this little drone, and we feel like we can match it up pretty nicely with the rest of the look of this film. We don't like drones. We like moving cinema cameras in the air, and putting a little anamorphic lens on this thing makes it feel like that. In another Cinetherapy episode, I will talk about all of the weird tech issues that we had on that trip. Weird stuff with making this thing work on the drone's gimbal. Weird stuff with, we're gonna change the way we kit out the Alexa Mini LF on a Ronin. So the Ronin S2 has come out now, and everybody's shooting with this brand new gimbal that's super easy to use, and we are putting a giant cumbersome cinema camera inside of a Ronin 2, and there's a good reason for it, but I think it should be done easier. So we're going to do a little retooling of the gear build out that we have.
Mm-hmm.
But so we've had a lot of big major projects with this camera right away, and we haven't been posting daily reels. We're going to get back on that because we have a lot of really dope footage that we want to share.
Yes, we do. I was just confirming that our call got moved.
Nice.
Yeah, so I don't know. It kind of speeds us up.
Yeah, it does.
Date. That's what we've been doing. That's where our heads have been at, where our minds are.
The next thing that we're like considering we might need, we're going to, we'll talk about Sprinter vans eventually. We'll talk about like redesigning how we organize all of our gear,
Yeah, absolutely.
We still have the same old problems of, we're editing on MacBooks and I'm destroying them every day. We have too much footage, not enough storage. We have, we're stuck indoors, but how do we make that work? How do we make cool stuff?
Yeah. We forgot, speaking of making cool stuff.
I know. I was kind of like, it's kind of pushing you.
Were you pushing me?
I was pushing you. You literally, we were sitting here one day talking about how we want to make something that just pushes the boundaries of what we do. And we want to make something that catches eyeballs and show off this new camera that we got. And I started throwing out ridiculous ideas, and you weren't listening to any of them because you already knew. You already had an idea in your mind.
Yeah, so we reached out to a buddy of ours who happens to be a top 20 CrossFitter in the world. He's a professional CrossFit athlete. His name is Cole Sager. He happens to live in the same city that we live in. So we had an idea for a single shot, single take, single shot advertisement as a Nike concept, and he's a Nike athlete. So we went out and filmed that with him at the greatest sunset and best day for shooting that specific spot and story that we could have ever imagined.
It was unreal.
Yeah. So it looks fake. And that's how unreal the backdrop looks.
We had like in our minds one shot just following him. We wanted to start on his feet running and slowly move up to reveal he's this unbelievably fit machine, and he's running, and there's the mask. We wanted to like reveal this like bomb drop of the mask. And Nike has been running this ad campaign.
You can't stop us.
You can't stop us.
So,
and fits into the story, but on the note of the most unbelievable opportune moment to film this thing, we did this a couple of times. We found the hill that we wanted to use in town. We picked a day that just worked for all of us to get together. It seemed like it might be a good sky night, but also we were all available.
It was hailing and raining sideways that day. We didn't know what was going to happen.
All day long, we were ready to just cancel. It is common that after rainfall is the best time to get a good sunset.
Yeah.
So I kind of had in my mind, like, let's just keep it on the schedule. Let's meet anyways. We're just going to meet. It was hailing sideways that day. We met at the hill, and it was like a fiery sunset. We got a couple of different takes the way that we wanted to. And then I just threw out there, what if we did it again, but we like turned at the last minute to reveal a side profile. Side profile was not on the storyboard. So we were on a truck bed. I wore a climbing harness. I hang in the back. Mitch drives. We're going really slow. We were trying to match.
Cam Hotchkiss was driving.
Again.
I pulled focus.
Again, Cameron Hotchkiss was with us. Cameron was driving. It's weird. I don't know. I had trust issues. I need you to drive.
Cam was like, I can get in this lane. We're like, dude, there's a turn here. Well, I'll just cheat it a little.
I'll just cheat a little. But we drove at the pace that Cole was running. He was telling us how comfortable he felt with the pace. And then we slowed down and went beside him and revealed the side profile. And then I just told him to keep running. And we got this really smooth shot. Ronin, easy rig, Flow Cine, Alexa Mini LF. He runs off. And then we had an audio recorder with us, and we recorded footsteps, we recorded breaths, we recorded atmosphere. We figured we're going to be able to do sound design on this. You know, this is going to be super simple, super elegant. But I just could not get the footsteps, the audio footsteps, to line up with his feet. I couldn't get his breaths to line up.
With the mask.
Because the mask goes in and out as he's breathing. So we called on a friend online.
This is a great segue.
That's what I'm getting at. I'm going to hand
our other podcast.
Yeah, I'm going to hand it over.
No, you go.
I just couldn't, I couldn't get him ready. And so a friend that we have made online that, I tried to make it happen in person, but we'll get there one day. A friend that we made online, Mr. Alex Knickerbocker, who happens to work on like Unreal Universal movies. we've been talking about sound design online, and been texting, been phone calling, and I texted him and asked, do you have any ideas for how to line up footsteps? And his response, his glorious response is, send it over to me. Let me see what I can do. And he replaced this unbelievable sound designer replaced our footsteps. He used our footsteps.
Yeah.
Used our breaths, but he didn't like my...
They were Cole's footsteps.
They were Cole's
and
footsteps.
Cole's breaths.
He didn't like my atmosphere. He wanted some early morning bird chirping because we said we wanted it morning. He went like deep into the lore of what we wanted, of what the story was, rather than just what we had gathered.
Yep.
He got the footsteps to line up perfectly. He got the breaths to line up perfectly. He created an atmosphere. And it's to a point now where when people watch it, they're like, how did you do that?
Yeah. How'd you record audio?
How'd you record audio? How'd you film that and get the audio?
It happens 100% of the time in the middle of viewing that people won't watch the full video. Like
Without,
they watch,
yeah,
but their first question, how'd you get the audio? So
yeah,
and that's there are experts out there.
There are experts for a reason.
And Alex Knickerbocker is the man. AXK just coming in hot.
We're going to do, if this episode comes out while we still have 3 in the docket, if it comes out after those 3 have been posted, Alex Knickerbocker turned it into a friendship. Just super rad because he works on big stuff. And not only has he taught us a ton just through conversation, but also it's just a thrill to see that, you reach out to someone who does dope stuff in filmmaking and you create a friendship, because in the world of filmmaking, people can be kind of cold. And Alex was one that was like, yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Let me share some stuff.
Yeah, he's rad. And we're super grateful to have had him on the podcast, which that episode will come out soon. Maybe without his video because we have had technical issues. Another reason why it hasn't released.
Oh my gosh.
But we will have him, his episode come out. And then you mentioned earlier that I had a kid. I had my daughter in December, which is like try to segue to that we had somebody else that had a kid on as well, and his name was Nathan Slaybaugh. And Slaybaugh is part of the Lost Tapes crew, and if anybody is like you would think is going to be part of something called the Lost Tapes, it's going to be Slaybaugh. That guy is one of the most interesting people we've ever interviewed. His stories pop up in my mind all the time. Yeah.
I have a hard time understanding how a person with this many unique, compelling life experiences exists on this planet.
He was part of the Ringling Brothers circus, traveling circus. They don't have they're a traveling city by train, and
it's unreal. Like you said, how did you get into filmmaking? And he starts with, "Wow, I was part of the Ringling Brothers circus." Okay, let me strap my seatbelt in.
Yeah, dude, he auditioned over the phone. As part of became part of the band.
Played trumpet in the band.
Yeah, he got really into photography while he was on the road. Yeah, he sold everything, bought an RV. I was like, I'm part of the circus.
He got really into photography and eventually filmmaking and really into coffee while he was in the circus. And I met Slaybaugh through the coffee scene of our town. I'm a filmmaker during the day, but at 5 a.m. when I am making my espresso at home. I am a barista in my mind. It'll be a side project one day. But Nathan and I met through the local coffee scene. He was making documentaries for the Specialty Coffee Association of America, and needed a camera operator for a documentary that he was going to go make. And he never ended up hiring me, but we started a friendship. I was really excited to have him on and hear some of these life stories, because every filmmaker friend that we have that knows Nathan, they always say, "Oh, you are going to get to know Nathan. You're going to have him on your podcast, and I hope he talks about this." And every single person has a different story that they mention. You're like, "There's no way. This guy's a mystery." You're trying so hard.
No, I've got an itch on my. Anyways, no, he's amazing. The guy cracks me up. Like, his stories are almost not believable.
I think that's also like, those are the kinds of friends that we've been making in filmmaking. Like, you were joking about the Jordan Hallen podcast episode. We started. You push play, and he's immediately talking about almost dying. And like, this guy, these people that have, unbelievable documentary stories. It's fascinating.
It is. I'm excited to be back. It's good. It feels good. Just to wrap up.
Yep.
It's been a strange time to do all of this with,
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, with a pandemic taking place, everything has to be thought about, differently on, what kind of protocols are in place and how many people are going to be around or we will be around. And, but one thing we're fortunate with is we're used to being a small crew, nimble.
Yeah.
And, I think that's helped us quite a bit.
I believe it's helped us a lot.
Yeah.
We're used to being a small crew. And I mean, I know, like, one of the topics of conversation between you and I often is, obviously we want to make epic. We have a couple epic feature films in mind. And I use the word epic
like
in the accurate term.
You want it to be an epic.
And epic, like the story is the actual English language meaning of epic, which is going to require like huge crews. But then you see this, this new wave of filmmaking where cameras are getting really good, inexpensive. Gear is getting really good. It's possible to make, one of our other buddies, Alex Rivera, talks about how he works on big commercial sets where they use Alexas all the time. But then in his personal work, he's trading everything in for a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, because at the end of the day, a digital sensor is just numbers, and you should be able to make them all look the same. You should be able to make it look good, because it's just numbers that you're manipulating, which I believe. And so there's this insanely wonderful time to be involved in filmmaking where you can make really beautiful things and be super small and nimble.
Yep.
And so I think that if there's one thing that 2020 has either proven to us or forced us to prove to ourselves, is that the quality of work that we want to bring, we want to show, we want to produce, has to be possible while being small and nimble.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's affected the way that we see, the way that we're going to make those feature films, the way that we're going to make those TV shows. Obviously, we want to be able to work with the people that we want to work with. We want to be able to work with the kind of budgets that we want to work with. But we've proven to ourselves that we're going to be able to make things being nimble.
Yeah. I think that kind of ties in with the idea that it doesn't really matter what camera you're using. Like, I want to emphasize that we don't think that we're like any better because of the camera choice or whatever. It didn't make us all of a sudden a better director DP duo in the commercial and documentary world. I do think it has inspired us to some degree, and it has forced us to think more about what we're capturing, and like and not just get a bunch of coverage. Like, we're shooting more intentionally.
We're definitely being much more intentional. Like the U.S. Endowment for Forestry project, you had put a storyboard together, and then on our drive, we had a 10-hour drive down there, and we discussed like shots that we wanted to create, which is not something that we've done a whole lot of. We have, but like, we were going to go into the forest and we needed to create this waterfall shot. Like, we've been super intentional about the story and trying to plan out how we're going to make that story happen visually. I think that's a really good point. So, it hasn't necessarily made us better, but it has definitely inspired us and lit a fire under us.
Yeah. And with that in mind, we chose to purchase that camera before. I wouldn't do it over. Like, I wouldn't change anything, but we did that with the intention of renting the camera out with one of us as first AC or first AD or whatever, to larger productions and crews in the Northwest. And obviously those plans have been put a little on hold, on pause, because we were hit with a global pandemic. So with that being said, for us, the investment was about, really being a shop, a film production shop that had the camera in-house that could go and work on these other productions. So with that being said, we're making content with it right now, and we are budgeting in the camera, and I feel awesome with what we're doing with it. And I think what you were referencing to with Alex Knickerbocker, I think that is such an awesome, or not Knickerbocker, Rivera. That is an awesome route, and we've talked over and over again about the simplicity of having a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera kit.
Well, I mean, we saw our buddy Ryan Ferguson, who's been on here. He was working with an FS5 that was super kitted out, and it was this cool, heavy cinema camera. And he one day decided he just does not like working with this complicated thing, and he knows he can get a good picture out of a pocket cinema camera and a slew of GH5s. And he, for his commercial work and he shoots a lot of weddings, and he switched over to a couple of pocket cinema cameras and some GH5s, and he still makes beautiful stuff that my wife showed me one day. We're sitting at dinner, and she's like, so there was this ad. It was his Falco's ad. There was this ad. I don't know who did this in town, but it looks really good. You should probably figure out who did this. And I laughed. I was like, I already know who that is. It was Ryan. And like the fact that, like, my wife doesn't normally show me ads that she thinks are good, but this one she called out, and it was right after he had just switched to the new cameras. So it is a testament to, it doesn't matter what camera it is. And the other thing is Ryan Booth uses a pocket cinema camera personally, and half the stuff that he makes just personally is gorgeous.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a tool.
Absolutely. Yeah, so with that stated, if you're listening to this and you are going to work on a production that has budget for an Alexa Mini LF and one or both of us, reach out. We want to do it.
It's ready to go.
We're, Sam hinted at a Sprinter van. If that means we got to get a Sprinter van to be an airplane on wheels during COVID, we'll do it.
We're ready.
Yeah, we'll quarantine for 14 days in that Sprinter van. So, anyways, I don't know. We should probably wrap.
We should probably wrap. No, this has been good. I would normally we would ask like, what movies have you been watching lately? What inspires you lately? But well, that's actually a good question. Give me one thing that's inspired you.
In 2020, it was a film that came out in 2019. But I watched it in 2020. Honey Boy is probably my favorite film that I've watched. My favorite TV series is without a doubt Ted Lasso, that I've watched in 2020.
Those are really solid. We have talked a lot about Honey Boy, and it's ironic that, that was Shia LaBeouf's therapy, was writing out his story in the form of a screenplay, and it wound up being just a beautiful film. And we're talking about it on a therapy show. And then Ted Lasso, you don't rewatch shows, and you have watched through that whole season twice. It's phenomenal. I'm on both those trains.
Yeah. There's so many there are so many films that I have not watched and I want to watch. I will name drop because it makes sense. Today, Cowboys came out, and Ian McLeod, you had a conversation with this week.
Yep.
He scored that film.
At least their music service scored that.
Yeah.
Somebody from their licensing service scored that.
Yeah, and then Lucas Harger edited it. So I'm excited to watch that. It's all black and white. The story of the American cowboy.
We're going to go watch that.
Yeah. And I have my watch list just keeps growing, and just 2 hours is a lot of time to budget.
The midst of this pandemic, in the midst of this election, this super divisive election, I finally watched Jojo Rabbit.
Oh yeah.
Which I think is super relevant today.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not only am I now like, what's that director's name? Shoot. He's from New Zealand. Not only am I all about this director, but the idea of like looking at, obviously it's about Nazi Germany, but it's from the perspective of a little boy in the Hitler Youth. And he encounters a young Jewish girl. And it's the story of learning about other people through the eyes of a little boy who's so dedicated to the Hitler Youth. And yet what he's learning about another human being is changing what's happening inside of him. And I think that it's beyond relevant for what we're dealing with, especially in this nation today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We didn't even talk about that, man alive.
No, we will. We got to get these back out. We're recording in a different file format. We're going to edit in a different editor. We're just going to spit these episodes out. We forced ourselves not to cough. We tried super hard. We only had one bathroom break. I mean, this is a big deal.
I think once. Yeah, it's good. It's good. So,
right on.
That's a wrap. Thank you for listening to the Cinetherapy podcast produced by Inland Film Co. Next time, you might be listening to some lost tapes. 3 episodes that haven't seen the light of day in almost a year. Peace.